Well, it's been 2 years since I last uploaded. Oh god. I'm uploading something slightly different from usual videos. It's not going to be a let's play or a speed draw. I'm actually just gonna talk about Terraria because I enjoy it and I just wanted to talk about it. So there you go. Terraria is a 2D action adventure sandbox game developed by Realogic and is my second favourite game of all time. Just behind Majora's Mask, which is number one, uh, because that game's great as well. But I do feel that Terraria is probably the best designed game I've ever played. Um, and in this video, I'm gonna tell you why I really love Terraria. So there you go. Well, I guess I'll start off with my experiences with Terraria. I started probably the same as everyone else. I just thought it was a 2D Minecraft clone because it's pixelated and it has mining and it's crafting. Exactly the same. But one day I saw my brother's friend playing the mobile version, and one thing in particular caught my eye. That made me think, oh, maybe it is a little different. And that was that he had a flying carpet. I just thought, wow, that's real interesting. Minecraft doesn't have interesting things like flying carpets. If Terraria's got a flying carpet, then it must be different. So I decided to buy Terraria on my iPad, and I played it co-op with my brother, and yeah, that's when my amazing journey started more than 5 years ago. That has all led to the Journey's End update. I actually got the PC version a couple of years ago. I specifically got a laptop to play Terraria 1.3 when that came out. So yeah. And the final update, like I said, Journey's End, came out probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago by now, actually. So I thought it was probably a pretty good time to talk about this amazing video game. So probably the reason why I think Terraria is so great is the gameplay, and I would personally split the gameplay up into two main segments. There is exploration and there is combat. There are other types of gameplay in there as well, such as building and fishing, but I feel that exploration and combat are the two main parts that are the most enjoyable as well. I feel that these are the most important and fun parts, is that they're perfectly intertwined, as exploration leads to combat, which then leads you to more exploration and more combat, and so on and so forth. When you start the game, you do the basics. You chop down a tree, you build a house. It's quite similar to Minecraft. However, as soon as you go exploring, it starts to change it up a little bit. What was that? To explore the world, you'll find different chests and pots that you can break with different loot in them, such as healing potions, accessories, or weapons, which give you an incentive to explore more, to find more cool loot. You then start to explore caves deeper down and find different kinds of chests, maybe like a chest in an underground house. These have even more interesting items, such as the Hermes boots or a cloud in a bottle, which increase your movement capability and makes exploration a lot more fun and easier to do. There's also lots of enemies to fight and ore to mine whilst you explore, which also helps you progress through the game, as the ore allows you to craft better armor and weapons. This gives a sense of achievement, progression and drive to explore, which is quite similar to a Metroidvania, which is my favourite genre of video game. Finding new and interesting loot in Terraria is just so much fun to do, especially as the loot is incredibly useful. Like I said before, it can be something that helps with your movement or just gives you something new that you can do. Like for example, you could find the spider climbing claws or whatever they're called, which allow you to hang on to sides of walls, which essentially allow you to wall jump to climb up walls. When I first played Terraria, I'd never played a Metroid nor a Castlevania, which leads me to believe that the exploration in Terraria is what made me enjoy exploring every nook and cranny of the world and set the foundations for my love of Metroidvanias, which I'm incredibly grateful for because some of my favourite games are Metroidvanias such as Hollow Knight and Super Metroid. As I said before, exploration leads to the other major segment of gameplay, which is combat. Whilst you explore these caves and caverns, you will either find materials to craft weapons or just find a weapon after killing an enemy or finding it in a chest. These weapons range from a sword that just shoots exploding seeds, just a regular old rifle, and lots of different kinds of guns, a magic weapon which allows you to cast meteors down from the sky, which is pretty cool, or a staff that can summon a UFO minion to fight for you. I love how different and imaginative these variety of weapons are, and makes replaying the game incredibly fun, as you can always experiment lots of different loadouts and weapons, and there's always something new you didn't find on your first playthrough. There's always something that has like an incredibly low drop chance that you just happen to get on like a second playthrough, and it's probably incredibly cool weapon. Now, there'd be no combat without something to fight, and a standout in this department is the bosses, and the number and variety of them. At the start of the game, they are simple and easy to fight, with limited attacks and movement, such as the Eye of Cthulhu, but later on, they gain more complex attacks and become this fast-paced dance by trying to dodge the boss's attacks with your high mobility, whilst also getting into a good position to attack. That's either with a ranged weapon or melee weapon or whatever. Some of my favourite bosses being Duke Fishron and the Limited Cultist, because I feel that those two really exemplify this kind of fighting style to the fullest. Those are both fast-paced, trying to dodge loads of different of their attacks. Especially with the cultists, I kind of wish they would drop some of them. Like you would be able to get some weapons of their magic attacks, like that icicle one or that lightning one. It's just a big cool magic weapon. Like, come on. Obviously, Duke Fishron is just one of the hardest bosses in the game, so it's incredibly fun to fight. I feel that the boss variety is one of the standout features of Terraria. There are some really simple bosses, such as Queen Bee, which is just a big bee, but there's also the Wall of Flesh, which is really interesting, especially because it uses 2D to its full extent, because I don't think the Wall of Flesh would work in 3D. Just how it goes along the screen. It's just like a really interesting concept that just works in 2D. So, I think that's cool. You also always have something you are working towards because of these bosses. you always have a goal in mind, the next boss you need to fight, and everything you do leads up to that. You're always trying to get new armor or new weapon or new accessories because you need to defeat these bosses. Example of this is I'm currently playing a summoner playthrough on expert. I'm stuck on the destroyer or any of the mechanical bosses. I can't do it. I don't know how, so I think I could just get better stuff. But also, these bosses require good movement and dodging, which I need to get better at this, even though it's like one of my fifth playthrough of the game. Still not the best at it. So either you can just get better stuff, or you can get better at the game, and that allows you to always progress through the game. Some of the fights in Terraria themselves are probably also some of the most frantic fun I've had with friends in gaming. Just 3 people fighting a boss. It makes it super easy, but it's also incredibly fun to do. I also really like how events differ the combat up a bit, to have waves of enemies or just a large army to fight through, as it gives a different kind of combat experience to the bosses, as it requires you to different weapons and strategies, such as area attack weapons are probably better, but also they bring in mini bosses, which, more enemies to fight is great. Final reason I feel combat is so good is customizability, that is the class system. Terraria consists of 4 distinct classes: melee, ranger, magic, and summoner. Rest in peace throwing, you will not be missed. Each class has its own unique weapons, armor and accessories, and playstyle, and gives a massive incentive to replay the game because of how different they all feel. I would know, as I don't particularly replay video games, but I've replayed Terraria over 5 times over mobile and PC. What I think is so brilliantly designed about this is that classes aren't decided from the start of the game like other role-playing games. Example being Dungeons and Dragons, where you choose a class at the start of the game and you're kind of locked into that. You can multi-class, but you're always going to be that class. But in Terraria, you can choose which class you want to be at any point in the game. You can switch class or even play a mix of classes at any point. This is done by giving player weapons and accessories from all the classes throughout the game, so then you can experiment with them and decide what to use depending on your playstyle. I have played every class at least once, currently doing summoner. Actually, I don't know if I've done melee. I probably have done melee. It's basics melee, but fine. I have played mage multiple times, as it is my favourite. This is because some of the weapons are incredibly strong, super fun to use, and they're also like a lot more distinct from some of the other weapons. Like some of the weapons in the other classes are quite simple. They can also be quite interesting, but most of the magic weapons are just like, whoa. Like there's an actual bubble gun that is viable until the end of the game, and some other interesting weapons, like there's a leaf blower, which is just like, it's not great, but it's kind of cool how there's just a magic weapon that's a leaf blower, and it's just a massive laser gun. Yeah, it's great. But best weapons in the game, the end game weapons, are just so fun to use. Like the last prism, just a magic weapon, just a massive laser. Probably why I chose it to be mage in the first place. It's just the last prism. It's just so cool. There's also the zenith, which got added in 1.4, which is a melee weapon, which is probably the best weapon in the game because it has infinite range and does loads of damage, and it's just so much fun to just shred through like previous bosses with these two weapons that gave you a lot of trouble, and just like kill them in like seconds. Which, you know, it's always fun when a game allows you to fight enemies from way, or bosses from way previous in the game, to show how far you've gone. So let's finish the combat section by talking about the final boss. The Moon Lord, I feel, is one of the best final bosses in a game. One reason being, it kind of gives a full circle to the game. It's the first boss you'll probably fight is the Eye Cthulhu, and the final boss is just essentially Cthulhu without legs. Yeah. No, but really, it is. It's supposed to look like Cthulhu, but like space and blue with lasers. Like, why wouldn't you like that? Boss is also just really fun to fight, and is, I feel, incredibly climactic. As after you defeat the 4 pillars, you just see impending doom approaches, and the music starts to stop, and the sky get grey, and it's like, ooh, the tension sets in. It just appears, and it's just so cool. It also tests your skills up to this point really well, I feel, like dodging this giant laser, which takes, you know, can you fly? What good? Do you know how to dodge all this stuff? Do you know how to manage health bars? Because once you've destroyed one of the health bars on his eye, the eye will come out and start attacking, so you kind of want to make sure you get like both hands down to like sort of equal sort of health, and then destroying both at the same time, you know. And then obviously when you defeat the Moon Lord, you get some of these crazy weapons, being one example being the last person, but there's also all the crazy weapons. And you get a portal gun, which, you know, that's cool. You know, you get a portal gun. It would have been kind of cool if they added like another final boss in 1.4, so you can actually like use these weapons on a boss that like will actually won't die instantly. But obviously, the Moon Lord's a great final boss. Kind of Empress of Light is kind of the hardest boss, or Dukefish one you could use these weapons on, but you know. Overall, I think the combat system is probably my favourite part of the game, because the weapons are so much fun to use, and the movement options stop it from getting boring with how good they feel to use, especially the wings. Like, my god, when you get those wings for the first time and you can just fly like super high, it's just like so cool. And I'm just saying it's cool, but like just lots of it is cool. But you know, also combat can be quite frustrating when you just, especially on Master Mode, like my god, I think they made Master Mode a bit too frustrating. Like just dying and constantly. But you know, whatever. Now, there are lots of other elements about Terraria that people love and are essential in making Terraria what it is. I just prefer combat and exploration to these other things. Probably one of the most vital parts of Terraria, and the area that makes people compare it the most to Minecraft, is the building mechanics, which, you know, makes the game a sandbox. I understand the building is quite useful, especially if you're making boss arenas, which, you know, is incredibly useful. And it can be a big draw to the game, and some people have made some amazing 2D art. However, I just don't find it that fun to build, you know, it's just a bit slow and tedious. You can probably see that in my house designs. They're just boxes, nothing incredibly fancy. I don't think I've ever made a fancy house in Terraria. Saying that though, as an artist, if I thought of it as an artistic tool, I could probably find a lot more fun. It's just when I'm building, it's just like I said, it's slow. It just feels like it takes a long time, and the amount of effort that gets put in doesn't really feel like there's enough gained for me. Oh, and also building is also quite useful for blocking off tunnels whilst you're mining, so you don't get interrupted. So I'll give it that. Especially in Master Mode, when Anything can just creep up on you and instantly kill you. Anyway, that also leads into mining. Mining is fun whilst you're doing it while exploring, as it's some other treasure to find along with chests. You just see some gold ore or something and you go, oh yeah, I'll mine that. But when you are specifically looking for an ore, because you don't have enough for an armor set, most of the time for me it's either the last in pre-hard mode or hard mode being gold / platinum and adamantite / titanium. I just can never find them, enough of it to make the armor. It always gets incredibly tedious when you just mine just for the reason of that. Especially when you have a slow pickaxe at the start of the game. Like I know I'm just saying what I don't enjoy about the game is all the slow and tedious sections, but there is quite a bit small sections which are just slow and tedious. So, yeah. But these slow and tedious sections are even more noticeable on a repeat playthrough because you've had these incredibly fast pickaxes or movement. You go back to the start and you're like, my god, this copper pickaxe mine's so goddamn slow. Also, another gameplay section in Terraria is fishing, which can be fun sometimes. I'm just probably never going to get the 200 fish quest achievement, like, ever. Like, I'd really like to 100% the game, but I don't think I'm ever going to get that achievement. Now, shall we move on to the amazing OST? In my opinion, Terraria has one of the best chiptune soundtracks in any indie game. Each song perfectly evokes what it is meant to, such as the snow theme feeling chilly and cold, the Hallow theme being magical and fantastical, because you know the rainbows and unicorns and stuff, and all the boss tracks being this epic, intense, gets you pumped for the fight, and they're just a great listen. Two of my favourite of songs being Pantera track, you know, obviously I'm pretty sure everyone likes the Pantera theme, but also the console space theme, which is now the space day theme in 1.4. Interesting thing about this theme is that I never played console Terraria, so I'm playing 1.4 and going to a Skyland, and that great string section in the middle came in. I was like, I don't remember this song being this damn good. Probably, obviously, because I've never played console before, but like, just such a good song. Just listen to it. Now, a divisive part of Terraria is the art style, which some say is generic and boring. However, I really like the art style, probably because I played Terraria when I was a lot younger, so I probably just accepted it. I wasn't particularly artistic at that point. I was probably just like, oh, it looks cool. But also, the sprites look great. But also, I think some of the sprites look great, especially the bosses. This is a good example of the art style really shining is the pillars right at the end of the game. The art style really starts to pop there, and it looks a lot better than the early game stuff, probably because of the interesting lighting and contrast used in each pillar. You know, they're all color coded, and all the enemies look really detailed and look really good. And also the ripple effect when the barrier disperses, I think it looks really nice as well. Like it's probably one of the few things that isn't pixelated. But when that goes and you can just go straight for the pillar, it looks great. Like I said before, though, I do agree that the art style for some early game sections are a bit lacking. Some parts do look a bit generic or not as detailed. But I also feel that the whole beginning of the game is quite lacking and can be a little boring. That perfectly leads to the final section of this video, the cons of Terraria. Or, no, not cons. Cons? The negatives. The negatives of Terraria. I have two major problems with Terraria. The start of the game, and that prior knowledge is required to fully enjoy the overall experience. Let's start with the start. In the beginning of the game, everything is slow, attacking is slow, mining is slow, and moving is slow, making the game quite tedious on repeat playthroughs. I know I said this a bit before, but I'm just going to emphasize that, my god, the start of the game is slow. I believe Terraria starts to get good as soon as you get better movement options, such as the Hermes boots, which, speed up moving a bit, and you fight your first boss. That isn't too far into the game, but that slow section is enough to put some people off it. I also feel the game starts to get really good in hard mode, which is also a bit more of a time investment to get to. That's where all the cool weapons are, and you get wings finally. And really, my probably major problems with the start of the game is that when you want to get to like the ocean or something, like it really takes a while to walk there if you don't have fast speed. Like, I think just on one mall I just couldn't find Hermes boots, and like it just was super slow trying to walk there, which I guess pillars kind of get rid of that one small problem of trying to move from one side of the map to the other, but you also do have to go to that side of the map to first build houses for villagers. But whatever. I do suppose also that this slow start does make you appreciate the later game more, as it also gives a great sense of progression, as mining is a lot faster and moving is a lot faster, and you get all the cool stuff, and it's like, whoa, look how far I've come. Anyway, the other negative of Terraria is that prior knowledge is needed to fully enjoy it. Terraria doesn't really guide you where to go next. I know that after defeating the Eye of Cthulhu, you have to go to the Corrupt and bomb the Shadow Orbs to get weapons, and then fight the Eater of Worlds, and then you go and fight Skeletron, and etc, etc. But why would a newcomer know to do that? It's not obvious that you have to go to the corruption and bomb these glowing things. This is just one example of so many things in the game which it doesn't tell you. You could say that trying to find this stuff out for yourself is part of the fun, like when you do figure out that you have to use bombs to get to these Shadow Orbs, like, whoa, that is cool. But for some people, it just frustrates them, but they don't know where to go. In 1.4, there's a new system that was added, where an achievement is in the top right of your inventory, which tries to guide you in a general direction where to go next. This is a good step forward for helping people who don't know where to go, but I have heard from some people on like Twitter that it sometimes tells you to do something completely out of the player's skill level, such as Queen Bee right after I Love Terraria, which is possible, but for a newcomer probably isn't the best thing to do next. A way to get around this problem is to just look up what you're supposed to do, watch some guides, have some prior knowledge, at least not watch completely what to do, but at least know the basics. Well, some people either don't have the time to do this, or they want to play the game completely blind, because they want to be surprised. However, the problem of not knowing obviously doesn't exist on repeat playthroughs, as you know exactly what you're doing, and it's still as fun. as you're still finding lots of new stuff. I'd say the repeat playthrough is where Terraria is at its best. However, obviously the previous problem of the slow start is amplified as you know what the end game is like, so the repeat playthrough isn't perfect. Overall though, these problems don't affect my enjoyment enough for me to think of any less than my second favourite video game, and probably the best designed video game I have played. From its variety of well-designed bosses, its myriad of weapons and accessories to use, playing Terraria always feels like a new experience. Thank you, Terraria, for the past 5 years of enjoyment. I'll probably continue to replay you for many years to come. And thank you all for watching this video on why I love Terraria. Remember to like the video or subscribe, and I might do another one of these for another game, maybe Majora's Mask. I'm going to replay that sometime soon, so then I'll have fresh knowledge on it, so maybe if you want to see that,